Hi everyone, this is Nina and welcome to my comfort kitchen. I am so excited to be making my first video today. I am going to be making a corn chowder for you guys, and this is just with stuff that I have on hand. There's no recipe, but I will be writing down all the ingredients and I'll measure things for you so you can actually make this at home. And I believe in being totally transparent here. I am not trying to be an influencer. I want to make videos about the food. So even though I have a cute smile, I really, I don't want to be in the videos. I want the food to be in the videos. So let's get cooking and hair up. So I thought I would start this just by taking a little video of my herb garden. I am not a vegetable gardener. It's not my jam, but I'm really fortunate here to have all this fresh thyme and different types of oregano and sage and tarragon. And I'm sure there's other things I'm missing, but it's so wonderful to just come out here and grab some fresh thyme, especially because I use that in many of my recipes. It's so easy to grow and it just smells amazing, tastes amazing. So if you have the chance to grow a few of your herbs at home, that saves a lot of money. Those little spice packets cost so much, and it's beautiful to have this box of herbs to come to whenever I need it. So starting here and grabbing some thyme, and we'll see you in the kitchen. And before I do that, of course, Mr. Larry, who will be helping me in the kitchen. This is my sous chef. So he's doing a great job of prepping and stretching for the recipe. So Larry, you ready to go in the kitchen, buddy? You ready? All right, let's go. So I wanted to just show one quick thing that I do. A lot of people put just the whole stem into the soup and then the leaves fall off, and that's fine too. You just have to fish out the stems later. I just like taking it, and I'll take the end bit and I'll just run my finger down the stalk, and then all the leaves come off, and see how the stems left over. So I just kind of make all the stems naked, and I usually chop up the leaves a little bit too. It just releases more of the essence of that. But see how quick this is? Just zoop. And all the stems are off, and I can just throw all this directly into the veggies that are cooking. And this is what I'm working with today. All the stuff was in my kitchen or in the freezer. I like really hearty soups, so I probably could only use one pack of this. It's a 16-ounce bag of organic corn. I'm going to make a corny soup because I'm a corny kind of gal. All my vegetarian and vegan friends out there, I love vegetarian food, but I also love meats. It's something my body craves. I eat by my cravings. And I had this salt pork in the freezer that I got. It was like a discounted meats, but I'm going to cut up probably half of that and brown it because just the salt and the smoke is something that I personally like a lot. So if you don't eat meat, don't worry. Just cut that section out of the recipe, and I'll explain that later. But I had some potatoes on hand. I had to go to the store for an onion and a red pepper. I didn't buy an organic red pepper because those were like $6 a pop. So I went for the non-organic version. I had garlic and carrots and celery on hand. And these are, they've been in there a little while, but my rule is as long as you bend the celery or carrot and it still cracks or pops, I think it's still good to eat. But if it's like floppy, like nobody wants a floppy carrot, and I will just leave that right there. I have a container of homemade chicken broth. There's a little bit of chicken pieces in there too. I just want the flavor. I want some extra protein because I'm just needing that for myself. So I made this from a rotisserie chicken, so I'm just using that up because it's been in the freezer. And then the other half of the broth, I'm going to use this vegetarian or vegetable better than bouillon. So, you know, not a lot of ingredients here, and this is where we start. I'm going to skip to all the washing. You know, make sure you wash your produce because, especially with celery, you know, there's sometimes dirt and whatever in the stalks, and we don't want that. We want everything nice and clean and ready to go. So I'm going to wash everything. I'm going to chop everything, and then I'll put everything in the pot just to skip to that step. So if you have any questions, put a comment below. All right, so I have all my vegetables cut up here. I have 1 red pepper, 1 medium onion, 2 large carrots, 3 cloves of garlic, and several stalks of tiny celery because it's organic, but I would say 2 large stalks of celery would be just fine. And I also, I consider this diced. Minced would be a lot tinier. You know, it really depends on, you know, once these cook down, do you want them to be kind of more pureed into the soup, or do you want the vegetables to still have texture and size? And it's just really, everything depends on how long you cook it. So I'm going to also start right now with this 6 ounces of salt pork that I had. And I'm going to go ahead and put that in the pot. So this pot has seen many, many meals. It belonged to my father. I'm going to just go ahead and put the salt pork in there and start browning it up. So again, vegetarian friends, I'm sorry, but I want this to have some smokiness to it and a little bit of crispy meat. You could use some bacon you had on hand. If you don't eat pork at all, you could use some smoked turkey diced up, or just omit this step entirely. So I'm going to go ahead and keep stirring this until it's a little bit brown and crispy. All right, this is cooking down nicely. I'm going to drain off some of this fat because I am going to use the this salt pork fat as my oil for cooking the veggies, but I don't want like a ton of grease in there. So I just want to show you like how much there is now, and then I'm just going to drain this off and pull the pork pieces out, and then I'm going to start cooking down my veggies. Okay, so I've added all my veggies in here, the carrots, onions, celery, pepper, and garlic. And I'm going to just kind of keep stirring these and let the onions get a little bit translucent, and just so everything's just a little bit soft, because I don't want them to be so soft and cooked down by the time I add everything else. I want them to have some little bit of crunch still. And just note for the fat, I left 2 tablespoons of the pork fat in here because that salty flavor is really going to add to the vegetables. If you do not eat meat, well, if you do eat meat but don't eat pork, you could also use a smoked turkey leg. Again, this was 6 ounces of the salt pork. If you have a couple pieces of bacon laying around, that would be great too. And if you don't eat meat at all, then don't do it. So you do want some fat in the pot when you're cooking though. So vegetarian friends, I would add a couple tablespoons of avocado oil and maybe a couple tablespoons of real butter. Vegan friends, a couple tablespoons of olive oil, and then maybe some, I love the Miyoko's butter. It's a cashew-based butter. If you have a nut allergy, not your jam. So just, you know, use a dual fat just for that salt and flavor. And so I'm just gonna let these cook down a little bit. So I mentioned earlier I needed to make some additional bouillon because I mean, you know, you could absolutely just use water, but I just love more flavor, and I'm kind of a salt addict, I admit it. This Better Than Bouillon says add 1 teaspoon per 8 ounces of water. So I have a couple tablespoons here. more than a couple tablespoons. And I'm gonna add 6 cups of water. And I love my electric tea kettle here because I can just, I mean, you could do it all in the pot, on the stove, but I'm doing this while I'm cooking the veggies to multitask. And I really believe in multitasking. If you got a chance to do some kitchen cleanup while this is happening, do it. So here's 2 more cups, and then I need 2 more cups because I'm estimating I've got about 3 to 4 cups of that chicken broth from earlier. So 6 cups here. Give this a stir. So that is almost to where I want it to be. And then give my bouillon a stir here too and get that nice and mixed in for the next step. Okay, this is looking pretty nice here. Things are starting to get a little translucent. And I'm just gonna start throwing everything back in the pot. My little bit of salt pork. I've got about 6 small potatoes. And when I say chowder, I don't mess around, people. This is gonna be hearty, chunky, lots of stuff in here. Let's go with the corn. Oops. And, you know, I start to kind of just gauge. I mean, this is chock full. I don't think I want that other bag of corn in here. I know what I said earlier, but, you know, I could be wrong about things. We have an amazing pepper mill that is USB. I'm going to start putting some pepper in here. I am not adding additional salt because I don't know how salty that salt pork is yet. So I will salt the soup at the end. Okay, and so I also added the thyme in. I added couple cups of chicken broth and then 6 cups of veggie broth. And so basically, I'm gonna just bring this up to a boil, put a lid on it, and it's gonna simmer. I don't know how long yet, but I will let you know. And if you're gonna do any thickening or you want cream in this, we do this at the very end because we do not want that cream to curdle. So let's just wait for a bit. And so while this is simmering, I'm gonna clean up the kitchen because I really believe in good housekeeping in your kitchen. So, you know, this is like a nice dark veggie broth, but that's gonna look beautiful once all some organic heavy cream goes in there, and probably use a little cornstarch just to make it a little thicker because it is chowder. I mean, at this point, it's just a corn soup, but when I get done with this, it's gonna be a beautiful chowder. So I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, so the soup is beginning to boil. Look how pretty that is. All of those delicious veggies. And so I'm just gonna throw a lid on it now, turn it to low, and I'm gonna cook it until the potatoes are tender. So I'll be back in a bit. So I've let this simmer for about 45 minutes to an hour. Potatoes are nice and tender now. And I'm starting to bring this up to boil again because I want to add some cornstarch. But just so you can see, look at how beautiful that is. And everything's just beautifully tender. So I've got some cornstarch, about a tablespoon and a half, and I add some water to. So I want to thicken this soup up a bit. So I always add water to the cornstarch just to help distribute that. And if I have the soup kind of at a medium boil, it's gonna just change the consistency of that really well. At this point too, I want to add some more parsley. So let me grab that and I'm going to throw that in the pot. So I always add the parsley towards the end too because it'll just cook down and dissipate. And I really like that vibrant green and the way the flavor is of having fresh parsley at the end. So kind of just let that stir in a bit. And also, here comes the cream. So I have a nice organic heavy cream. Yeah, it says heavy whipping cream, but this is the thick, good stuff. So I've got a 1/4 cup of that, and I'm gonna pour that in there too. So here's another trick I do, just kind of swish it around to make sure you get all that goodness and put it back in the pot. And I'm gonna turn the heat down, but you can see already how this is changing into more of a chowder, creamy, and look at the pretty parsley going on in there. So I'm just going to keep this on low and watch this for a little bit. And at this point too, I always taste it. Even with the stock and the pork, sometimes it's still not salty enough. Yum. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little kosher salt here. All salts are made differently. Some are saltier than the others. So this is really about the salt you have in your kitchen. You know, salt it to your taste. Some people don't want salt. Some people don't eat salt for their health reasons. So, you know, just do what feels good to you. But look at how pretty and gorgeous this is. And the pepper. Put some more pepper in there because I love ground pepper. Just love seeing how this transforms after the cream goes in, and you can see it starting to thicken up. If you want it thicker than this, add more cornstarch. I don't want this to like just stand up on its own. I want it to, just want it to have that really creamy texture. So I'm going to let this cook a little bit longer, keep my eye on it, and then I'm going to serve it up. And here is the delicious bowl of corn chowder I made for you. I love all the colors, the orange of the carrots, the red peppers. I always put a little more garnish of parsley, and it's just, I think it's just perfectly tender and cooked. So, oh yeah, I love fall. I love soup season, crusty loaf of bread. Hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. Bon appetit.